Welcome to tonight's Tanya class. We are so blessed. We're learning Tanya. We're in the fourth section of Tanya. We're in Igeret Hakodesh. And we're holding chapter 21, Perek Chaf Aleph. So as I say every week, that every single chapter in Tanya, because it's the Bible of mysticism, it's unique, it's special, and has a foundation of something new in Kabbalah and mysticism. In this chapter, the Alter Rebbe discusses a very important concept, and that is when people give contributions, when people make donations and make pledges. So you make your annual contribution. It's known the annual contribution. So if you make an annual contribution, so let's say on the Jewish calendar, it starts with Tishrei, you have a whole year to give it. So when you're going to give it, you're going to give it in the month of El. You want to make sure that you gave away, you give all your end of year spiritual contributions. If you come into Tishrei, it's all paid up. For example, in the secular calendars, we will make the pledges, and in December, they say statistically most charities get all the contributions come in because people fund all the pledges from the year, which is very common. So the Alter Rebbe is going to, in this chapter, going to make a case on three levels, why it's important when you make a pledge to give weekly amounts, weekly contributions, or at least minimally monthly contributions. That's the basis of this chapter, but the Alter is going to show us in a beautiful way, Kabbalistically, spiritually, why it's extremely, extremely important to give the contributions, again, either on a weekly basis, or if not weekly, at least, on a monthly basis. So the Alter opens up this chapter in an interesting way. It's different. Obviously it's a letter. It's Igret's code, it's a letter, so it's obviously written more like a letter. But he starts off and he says, he wants to call out to you in peace, to La'oyave Shmoi, which is a unique expression. And as he's terming, and he's addressing people that make annual contributions. We're not talking to people that don't give. People that don't give, it's not addressed to. But he's talking to the ones that give, and again, possibly the ones that don't, maybe inspire them to give. But specifically, he's talking to people here in this letter that have pledged to charity. Actually, in this case, it was actually specifically to charity in Israel, to people that study Torah, through the organization, possibly Kol Chabad. And the Alter Rebbe says, he calls them La'oyave Shmoi. Those that made pledges, those that made annual commitments, he calls them Oyev Shmoi. Oyev, it's a very heavy title. Oyev Shmoi means they love who's Shmoi, who is the name God. So these people love God. Why? Because think about it. You're giving charity, you love God, and if you're supporting Israel, so you love God. So he classes them. He gives them a classification as what? As the Oyev Shmoi, which is a very, very beautiful title. So think about it. Every time you give charity, according to the Alter Rebbe, you love God. That's great. That's great. Just for that alone, it's worth to give charity. Every time you're giving, you get the title of you love God. Loving God. It's like it's an official thing. It's a great thing. But here the Alter Rebbe shifts and he says he'd like to reach out to them and tell them why it's important to give charity on a weekly, and if not weekly, at least a monthly basis. And he starts with as follows. He says, because we know that any time you do a mitzvah, there's many components to a mitzvah. There's the physical, there's the spiritual, many different components. The specific idea the Alter wants to discuss is about when you do a mitzvah, and I'll say the word in Hebrew and then I'll translate it. The Hebrew word is you should do it zrizus. You should be a zariz. What does that mean? You should do it quickly. You shouldn't push it off to tomorrow and the day after. You have a mitzvah, you should do it quickly. And zrizus is a very, very important component in the mitzvah. The Alter Rebbe gives an example, famous example. We know who is the first Jew? Very good. You guys passed the test. You guys are excellent. Very good. That's at 100 on the test.
We get our license.
You get your license, you get your smicha, right? You guys passed the test. That's wonderful. No, listen, it's beautiful. You know the answers. Okay, so Abraham was the first Jew. First Jew. Abraham, we know, was tested by God with many tests. The biggest test, what was his biggest test? The biggest test. Very good. You guys know all the stuff. Oh my gosh. It's hard to teach you guys. You know everything, right? To bring up his son. To bring up his son is a sacrifice. In Hebrew, it's called the Akeida. That was the 10th, the biggest, the hardest test that Abraham had. As a matter of fact, on this specific test, when he passed this test, you know what God said to him? Ata yadati. Now I know, right, that you're a faithful servant of mine. Until now, he didn't know. But there was something unique and something special. And everyone struggles. What was so powerful about this test? Obviously, you bring up a son, but the Alter Rebbe explains, and it's brought down in many places, in Kabbalah and in Zohar, that the power of this test wasn't so, again, obviously the Akeida in itself is powerful, but what was really powerful was that God told him, bring up your son as a sacrifice. Well, he could have said, okay, tomorrow. Next week, next month, I'll put it on my calendar, I'll put it on my to-do list, I'll set a ringer, and then you'll push it off, you'll push snooze a little bit, right? You guys are laughing because you can relate to this stuff, right? Oh, exactly. What did Abraham do? No. He got up the next morning when, not 12 o'clock in the afternoon, not 10 o'clock, early in the morning. Early. The first thing possible in the morning. Vayashken Avraham Boiker. The Torah tells us he got up real early. The Torah tells us he got up early. He got up early. Boiker. And not only did he got up early, what did he do? He himself went out. Vayachvoish. He himself harnessed his donkey. He himself did it. He didn't ask his servant. He didn't wait for his servant. Everyone's sleeping. Maybe even snoring. I don't know if they snore then. I have no idea. Is it a new thing? They had apnea. Okay. But the point is he got up early, he harnessed his own donkey, and he was off to do the mitzvah. So in brought down in Kabbalah, it says that possibly, that the most powerful component of the mitzvah wasn't just that he did it, which is great in itself, was that he got up early. He got up early. Because if you think about it, the Alter Rebbe says, think about it. On one hand, it was a huge mitzvah. But how many Jews over the generations, over history, have gone in self-sacrifice? Many. Many. It's not like he was the only one that ever did something like this. Many Jews went in self-sacrifice to God. Not only that, if you want to even look at it from a different perspective, Abraham, who asked him to bring up his son as a sacrifice? God himself. So if God came to you and asked you to do something, would you do it? For sure. All the Jews that went in self-sacrifice, God never came to them specifically and told them to do it. It says in the Torah. Obviously, it says in the Torah. But God didn't make a personal appearance. God didn't personally show up. So in other words, whose sacrifice is greater? Everyone that did it without God showing up, or Abraham because God showed up?
The ones without.
Oh, very good. The ones without.
Yeah.
So in other words, Abraham's self-sacrifice wasn't so great. So why do we make such a big deal and we read it every single day in the morning about the Akeida? Because obviously there's something unique about Abraham was that when everyone went in self-sacrifice and we're not knocking it, they did it at the end of the day, they'd be happy. They weren't ready to do it the first thing in the morning. Abraham got up the first thing in the morning. That was the power of this gift of Abraham. In other words, the power of Abraham was that he got up early in the morning. In Hebrew, it's called zrizus. Not only did he get up early in the morning, he actually got up to show other people his joy and his pleasure in serving God and fulfilling Hashem's wish, so that would inspire other people as well. Mm-hmm. Now, so we see from Abraham how important it is what? To do something quickly. Do something quickly. So that's the first argument the Alter Rebbe makes, that why one should not wait till the end of the year to fulfill your pledge or your commitment. Start giving it right away.
So you can inspire.
So you can be zrizus. You can do it right away like Abraham. And that will add to your mitzvah. That will add to your mitzvah. Not only that, the Alter Rebbe goes further in this first powerful case, and he says like this: every mitzvah that you do quickly is great. Charity is extremely important. Why? Because we know that when someone, God forbid, is sick, how can you heal yourself? So you can go to a doctor, I get that. But how do you get healed from the God, the ultimate healer? By giving charity. Because we know charity heals people that are sick, they're not feeling well. Up to the point we know it says tzedakah, charity, tatzil and mother. Someone, God forbid, is dying and in a very critical situation, charity can turn things around. Sometimes medicine can't, but charity could. So there's specifically when it comes to charity, do it right away. Because not only is it important to do it quickly, it will actually help you. It will heal you.
You'll start healing.
You'll start healing yourself.
Yeah.
Not only the Alter Rebbe says that we know that we're judged generally when once a year, Rosh Hashanah, right, Yom Kippur, etc. But then there's once a month. But there is a judgment that takes place every day. So for example, imagine today, God is coming to judge you. No, where's the charity? Where's the few pennies in the pushka? You going to stand there with no mitzvahs? I mean, we do mitzvahs. But if you can put in a few pennies in the pushka that day, guess what? God's coming to judge. Oh, guess what? The person gave charity. Let's give him a pass. Tomorrow he comes back, another few pennies in the pushka. He'll give you another pass. So God's coming to judge you every day, so make sure to feed the meter. Put some money in God's meter. If you don't feed the meter, it's not going to work, right?
That's cute.
It's not going to work. So here is the first major point the author is making is why one should give charity when? Every week, if not every month. Obviously, the author's preference is do it every week. And if you see even here, he's saying you do a step further, do it every day a little bit. Why? Because since God is coming to judge you every day, you want to make sure you have money in the pushka every day. So that is the Alter Rebbe's first argument, the first presentation, why a person should give charity when? Always, every day, but a specific request is once a week or once a month, and if you want to do it every day, it's even better. Okay. Then the Alter Rebbe brings from the Rambam that says like this. And he says there's a major difference between Maisa, the action of charity, and Avodas Tzedakah, and the work of charity. What does that mean? The action of charity is you're giving charity. What is the avoda? What is the work of charity? Giving it in multiple times and giving it when it's hard for you to give it. In other words, if let's say you write a check and it's not hard for you to give it, that's not avoda tzedakah, that's charity. But when you're, should I give, should I not give, it's going to affect my income, not going to affect my income, I'm going to be able to buy this, go on this cruise, I'm going to be able to not go on this vacation, am I going to be able to, right? When you have to start worrying about whether you're giving too much, that's called avodas tzedakah. So ma'isa tzedakah is every time you give charity, you don't bat an eyelash. You give, obviously every person according to their level. When you give and you're not batting an eyelash, that's called the action of charity. What's avodas tzedakah? To work on yourself, to give constantly, and give consistently, and give when it's hard for you to give. Why is it important to do not only the ma'isa tzedakah, the action of giving, but also to make it an avoda where you're constantly giving it, and you're giving it every day? Because think about it. Is it easier to write a check once a year, or to write every single day to give some money to charity? What's easier?
Once a year.
Once a year, you figure out how much money you budget for charity. Let's see, whatever you make, let's say you give 10%. Okay, charity is besides 10% is charity also. But let's say whatever you figure out what you give every single year. So you know what? Once I be busy with this once a month, once a week. I'm just going to write the check once a year and I'm done. I gave my charity for the year, and maybe I'll even give more than I give every year. So the Alter Rebbe says, no. If you write it once a year, you did the action of charity. That wasn't the work of charity. The work of charity is every single time you have to give the charity. We're not talking the amount. Even if it's a small amount, what happens is, think about it. Every time you want to give charity, who wants to give the charity? The godly soul. The animal soul wants to give the charity? No, it wants another pocketbook, right? Another watch. It wants charity, it wants another vacation, maybe another sushi, maybe another steak. I don't know, the animal soul wants it for himself. So every time you want to give even a penny, $1, 18, whatever the dollar amount is, you want to give, or ruble or shekel, whatever you're giving to charity, every time you want to give it to charity, you know what happens? There's a war. There's a war. Consciously or subconsciously between the godly soul and the animal soul. So if you write the check once a year, how many wars did you have over charity? One. Once a year. We're sitting down now. Okay, guys, we're gonna have it out, right? You have it out with the God, and it's irrelevant the amount because the point is, the fight is a fight. So it doesn't make a difference what the dollar amount is. But if you're having the fight once a year, guess what? Once a year you're fighting with the animal soul over. That's therefore. So, but have you transformed your animal soul from one time? No. But if every single day you say, okay guys, we're going to start the fight again, the godly soul says we're going to give some charity. Animal soul says no. Who wins always? You know the godly soul wins. But every time you win, you know what happens to the animal soul? He becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. So the point is, and also what becomes stronger? The godly soul. So every single time you want to give charity, the godly soul wants to give, the animal soul doesn't want to give, so it's a battle. And Lepoil at the end you give. Who becomes stronger? The godly soul. Who becomes weaker? The animal soul. So if you have the fight once a year, what kind of dent did you make in the animal soul, and what kind of win is for the godly soul? One little win, one little loss for the, right? But if you fight him every single day, and maybe we're not going to go into saying a few times a day, but at least once, if you once a day, you say, okay, here's charity. Oh my gosh, the animal soul feels defeated. The godly soul feels great. And you do it day in, day out. What are you doing? The Alter Rebbe says, guess what? You are building up the godly soul. You're pushing down the animal soul. And the more you do it, the more you're transforming yourself. So based on this second reason, in Hebrew it's called l'zachech hanefesh, which means to purify the godly soul and to obviously weaken the animal soul. If you do it consistently, as Alter was saying, once a week at least, have a good fight once a week, at least if not once a month. And if you want to do it every day, go for it, right? Go for it. Why not? Why not, right? Okay? So what you're doing is you're transforming. So therefore I was saying, don't do it once a year. The action of charity, I get it. You gave the money. You can check it off your list if you do it once a year. But if you do it consistently and constantly, you're going to do a major transformation. That is the second reason. Then the Alter comes to a third reason. And he says like this. There's something we know, we learned in Kabbalah, and we learned in Tanya many, many times, something which is called Isarusa de Latata, Isarusa de La'ela. That's the Hebrew. I'll translate, actually, in Aramaic. It means like this. When a person does something amazing down here, in this world, you know what happens? A light bulb goes on in heaven. And that light bulb draws down new energy down here. So for example, let's say you're not in the mood of doing something, praying, studying, doing a mitzvah, giving charity. You're not in the mood. But you just fight yourself. Let me go ahead and do it anyway. Let me do it anyway. What happens? God was sleeping on you. He forgot about you. But all of a sudden he wakes up. Oh, this guy I gotta help. Let me go out and do something nice for him. Why did God wake up all of a sudden? And the answer is because you woke up. So you woke up God, and God draws it back down. It's called Isarusa L'Tata. When you do something amazing down here, it awakens up a powerful energy on top from God, and that obviously is a blessing to you. What's greater? Your work, your gift, or God's gift? For sure God's gift. But in order for it to waken up God, that God should do something for you, you can't just keep on calling God, help me, help me. Do something. Do something nice and God will help you. And guess what? God will help you much more than you think you're helping the other person. It's what's called Isrus L'Tata. So the Alter explains and he says, think about this. When somebody's in need, a poor person, a charity, is in need, they don't have. You go ahead and what do? You have something and you give them. Whether it's time, whether it's money, whatever the gift is. You go give someone something they don't have. What did you do? Simple English. You had and you gave someone that doesn't have. So what did you create? You created down here a situation where you had, someone didn't have, and you gave the person that didn't have. You fulfilled their vacuum. You filled their empty space. So God says, ooh, I got to match that. And when God matches, it's a real matching. It's not 1 for 1, 2 for 2. It's like infinite versus finite. And God says, I want to draw down to. What does that mean practically? Dr. says like this. We know, what's the greatest light? We're going to go into a little Kabbalist. This is a little Kabbalistic, so pay attention. Bear with me. You guys are pretty good. What's the most powerful light?
God.
God. What's it called in Hebrew? I'll say it in Hebrew and I'll translate. Atzmus or Ein Sof. Atzmus means the essence of the infinite light. The essence of the infinite light. There's finite and there's infinite. So there's the essence of the infinite light. That's where it's all at. If we can experience a moment of that, that's wow. Now, the essence of the infinite light, as we learned actually last week in depth, right, that long class, that essence of the infinite light, you're smiling because you don't want to repeat of last week's hour class. Okay, we're not doing that, don't worry, trust me. Okay, that essence of the infinite light, before it starts making its way down to this finite world, the finite worlds, where is the place it goes into? And from there it starts going down. It goes into Malchut, of Atzilut. In the highest world, Atzilut, which is the highest world, which is very close, Eitzel, close to the infinite light. So the light goes into the world to where Malchut of Atzilut. Now we know Malchut from all the Sfirot, there's Chachma, there's Bina, the Das, these are all great Sfirot. Intellect, emotions, etc. What does Malchus have? Action. Malchus has action? What kind of action? What does Malchus have?
The light.
What is
the whole world in his hands?
It has nothing. Malchus has nothing. You know what Malchus has? What you put in it. Think about it. Chachma means wisdom. Bina, right, understanding. Das, chesed, kindness, gavura, right? Each one of those, they have a sphere. You can define what the sphere is. What is Malchus? Malchus, Kabbalah says, less loving great klum. It has nothing in there. You know what it has? What you put in there.
It's room for more to come in.
Exactly. So Malchus by default, there's nothing in there. It's an empty vessel. What's in there? Whatever you put in there. Chachma goes in there, Bina, Das, right? All the emotions. But what happens is, when you help so it's literally a mirror image. Think about it. You have something, someone has nothing. The someone that has nothing is comparable, obviously many different levels, but in concept, someone that's lacking is on the level spiritually of Malchut. Just like Malchus has nothing, when someone has nothing, that someone is like Malchus. When you have someone, conceptually, you have the light to give the person, which is like the Atzmas Ein Sof. When you go ahead and share of yourself to the person that has nothing, God says, ooh, let me do the same thing. So God shares His light into Malchut of Atzilut. Now, what happens when Malchut of Atzilut gets all that light? It starts coming down into this world. It comes down to this world. Where does it go in this world? So we know in the time of Galut, what's in Galus? The Shechina is in Galus. What does that mean, the Shechina is in Galus? What does the Shechina refer to? God's presence. When you look around, do you see God and godliness? No, we see physical things. You look behind it and beyond it, and you meditate and you think, you realize, oh my gosh, it's all from God. But the Shechina in itself is not in its glory. You don't walk around and see, oh my gosh, the infinite light. You see a finite light and God's concealed behind it. So what happens is, as you go ahead and do something for somebody that has nothing, the infinite light goes into Malchut of Atzilut. From Malchut of Atzilut, it goes down through all the worlds, and it starts giving off light to the Shechina, which is in Galus. Now, what happens if you write a check once a year to someone or an institution that doesn't have? So what do? You did one drawing down light from you to Malchut, right? So God flicks the switch once, and that's it, and it goes away. But what happens if you constantly and consistently, the Alter's official request is once a week, once a month, and then he said if you do it every day, it's amazing, right? So if you constantly give on a consistent basis, you give people that don't have. You know what happens, God? God is constantly putting the light into Malchut of Atzilut, which comes down into the Shechina, which is in Galus, until eventually, you know what you're going to do? You will create an experience where the Shechina is going to be so full of light. You notice when the Shechina is so full of light of God? Guess what? The Alter Rebbe finishes it off, the magic words. Ad ki yovei shiloi, till the Mashiach comes. Mashiach is going to come. So in other words, what the Alter Rebbe is saying is, we have the power to bring Mashiach. Mm-hmm. How? Very simple. Help someone that's in need. Not once a year, not even once a month, and maybe at least once a week, maybe even more every day. So you just now put light into someone that doesn't have. God will put the light into Malchut of Atzilut. From there, it's going to go down into the Shechina, which is in Galus. And if you keep on doing it, God will keep on doing it. And then the whole world will be full of the light of God. And then Mashiach will come. So here you see a beautiful chapter that's really, really amazing and eye-opening. And it shows you how important it is to give charity on a consistent basis. The doctor says once a week, once a month. If you want to do every day, it's also great. And he shows you on 3 levels why it's very, very important. Again, the first reason is because you should do a mitzvah right away. And when you do a mitzvah, it actually will help you because we know that charity helps. The second reason is because it actually transforms you every time you do it. It empowers your godly soul and obviously weakens the animal soul. And most importantly, Yahweh shows us Kabbalistically that when you give someone that doesn't have, you're drawing God's infinite light into Malchut and Tzilut. From there it goes down to the Gulut Shechina, and if it comes down, keeps on coming down enough, the Shechina won't be anymore in Gullus, and we will have the revelation of Mashiach now.